Now, I'd like to welcome two special people that are going to talk to us this morning, Pam Kidd and Gary Pickering. Now, I know a lot of you know Gary Pickering from our Erina days, and it's lovely to have him and Amanda here today. And I met Pam about a year ago, Pam, when you rang me and asked if myself and two of my neighbouring friends would like to come to a movie night, the Lee Strobel A Case for Christ. And it was a very interesting and informative night for me and my friends. Thank you, Pam. And I've stayed in touch with Pam. So now Pam is, she is a Bible worker and a supporter in the ministry at Gosford Church for Pastor Andy Mathis. And I'm sure that he's very fortunate to have you there, Pam, because you are a committed person. And today I have asked Pam, and Gary has come along also because he was part of this program, to share with us the experience that they have had in the recent evangelical program, PNG for Christ. So I'm sure you'll be very interested to hear what they have to say to us this morning. So I invite you to come and share. Thank you.
So as Teresa said, I am the Bible worker at Gosford Church. I've been there about a year and a half, and I do a lot of things. I do Bible studies. I do visitation with not just church members, but people in the community who aren't quite ready for Bible study, but they're very open for visitation. So I do that. I also teach a beginner Sabbath school class at Gosford. So I'm not just, as it was said by one of our elders when I first got there, I'm not just the pastor's secretary. I'm quite busy, and I love what I do. I met Gary about a year and a half ago now. Ooh. Yes, when I moved onto the Central Coast and moved into the little granny flat that I have, and had no idea that we would even want to get to know each other as well as we've learned to get to know each other. And at this point, I'm going to let Gary speak on that.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess the question is, how did us two become us couple of randoms to come to actually go to PNG? I guess Pam's just alluded that I had to go and look at a roof that was leaking on her icebox or a granny flat, and I knew that she was a Bible worker, and this is just after COVID had finished, and I was asked if people were coming back to church after COVID, because I, for one, hadn't been back yet, and I was sort of slipping out the back door, really. But anyway, we chatted, and I said, I'll give you a text in a couple of weeks to see if your roof's still leaking. Apparently it wasn't, and I couldn't find the leak, so I'm not sure about all that. So,
It's still leaking.
But you never told me that. Anyway, so come Christmas, I sent her, because she'd gone home to America, I sent her a text like I do a lot of other people, and I said, Merry Christmas. I said, hope Santa's kind to you. And she sent me some random text. I don't know, I didn't understand a lot of it, but I still haven't found out.
It's the American.
Exactly. So in January, she came home and she texted me and she said, I've got a question for you. God has asked me to ask you if you would come to PNG with me to do this preaching thing. And I said, are you serious, woman? Like, I'm not... It wasn't on my radar to even think about doing something like that. Like, I've been to PNG quite a few times, or 4 or 5 times, and preaching wasn't one of them. So I said, do you know how dangerous it is up there for a white woman on her own? She said, well, you come and be my bodyguard. And I said, me, bodyguard? Are you? Nah. I said, when you come back from India, because she was tripping away again to India, we'll have a conversation. So, and that's what we did. But before she got back, I went home and I spoke to Amanda, and I said, the crazy preacher lady wants me to go to PNG with her to do preaching or something. And she said, oh yeah, you'd probably enjoy that. I said, oh, I've got no excuse now. So anyway, push comes to shove, and then I said, yes, okay, I will do it. I had no better offer. But I said, and if you get a better offer, you take them, because, I'm a bit not so good. But I don't think she looked any further for some reason.
I did. I didn't know him.
Yeah, well, righto. But I said, and a bit later on, after we sort of firstly agreed to go, I said to her, we better have a few conversations, because I don't understand your lingo and you probably haven't got a clue what I'm talking about either. So we need to be on the same page when you hit the ground in WEWAC, because you've got 16 sermons or 16 presentations to give, and we need to be acting as a unit, and so that's what we did. Nearly every Sunday we'd go for a walk, but it'd be a couple of hours.
He was trying to kill me so he didn't have to go.
Exactly, but it didn't work. So, and we'd talk about everything and nothing in particular, just to get an idea of where she was coming from and the lingo. And so, yeah, and then about 2 weeks before we were to go, I'm thinking, why am I going? What am I doing? I had no idea. Pam couldn't tell me. I was just going. So I paid my money, so I had to go. Anyway, we went there. Ended up going to a boarding school out of WEWAC, about an hour and a half on a good day. And there's about 400 kids. And so Pam hit the ground running with her presentations, and she'll tell you about that and the stories that the kids would tell her, and how she had to deal with the PNG way of life. And I sort of understand a bit, because I've been there before, and I understood a bit of Pidgin, so which helped. But poor Pam, she was struggling a bit at the first week, but God was looking out for us. So I think you could look back and you can see his hand in it all the way along. Even when we were trying to get out of the place, it took us 2 days because they didn't have enough avgas, and we couldn't get on the plane till the next one. And then we missed all our interconnecting flights. But, fashion belong PNG. Anyway, we'll hand it over to Pam and she'll tell you the stories, I think.
We'll try.
We'll try.
We'll try.
You want me to step up here?
You're welcome to stay if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay.
Off you go.
Are you going to do it?
No.
Okay. So last April, we had somebody from the division come and tell us about PNG at Christ. He came to Gosford, and while I was sitting on the pews, God said, "You're going on this trip," and I said, "Yes." Yes, I was so excited, so excited. I knew just as surely as God had called me to Australia, he was calling me to PNG, and I knew nothing about PNG. I didn't even know how close it was to Australia. I knew nothing. I'm from North America, north of the equator, so things south of the equator is oblivious to me, other than there are some places that exist, and I know the names, and that's pretty much the end of it. But then as it got closer, as Gary was saying, reality started sinking in that, hold on, wait a minute. I'm this little bitty white woman going into a country that I don't know. I don't know their culture, I don't know their customs, and I don't know their dangers. And I don't want to go all guarded. And so as I started praying, it just so happened the next morning, Gary contacted me about the leak and see how things went. And God said, "Here's your team." And I'm like, I don't know this man. God, okay. Furthermore, he doesn't know me, and why would he go? Because he doesn't know me. And then the rest is history. He went. We landed in WEWAC on April 25th, 2024, this year. And I will say probably the one memory that jumps out at my mind is nothing you would think that would come from a missionary's mouth. The ocean water was amazing. It was warmer than bath water warm. It was great. I've never been in ocean water so warm. It was absolutely amazing. So, yeah, that was our first experience together as a team. We jumped in the water because I said, I'm not leaving until I get in this water. I got to get my head wet. This is great. Gary was carrying everything because I didn't have a burden to carry anything. And a wave came up just as we were getting out and kind of relocated everything that he was carrying, except for our hotel key, and it ate it. We lost it. Completely lost it. We're like, okay, they're sending us home now because we are immediately costing money. But they were very, very gracious and worked around us. We arrived in Nagam the very next day and found that, like Gary said, it's a boarding school of about 400 students from grades 7 to 12. And the average age of children is probably 15 to 18. There were children there from 12 to 22, I think, some even 25, because the schooling there is a little bit different than here. I love it. The school that's an older picture, but it still looks pretty much the same. So yeah, what you're not seeing are the classrooms. That's just the central area. That's the admin building there, and then off to the left of the picture would be the chapel. So I got there, and it was a little bit hard for me because, like Gary said, I struggled. Number one, I didn't know what I was doing. I've never been on a trip before like this. And then I realized that we landed in a very heavily patriarchal society where everybody's male and female, they have their roles in society, and leadership is a male role, not a female role. And here I stood in a female role, and never have I done this before. And the lead elder tried somewhat to hide the fact that he was struggling with that fact. He was very kind, he was very encouraging, and extremely reserved. So I had that against me, and having to then the messages that they had given us was written for adults that were familiar with God, adults that were familiar with Adventism. And I'm in a school with 400 students, and only about 25% of them were Adventist. And only about 40% of them were Christian. I had to rewrite every message. And so I'm struggling with that. And then just getting used to everything. It was glorious. I love heat. I love humidity, and I love to sweat. But I realize I love that a lot more when I have air con to go into and cool off. It was beautiful. It was. I loved it. Every day it would rain. Since we didn't have air con, we would get rain. And sometimes I would just go stand in the rain to cool off. But it was a little difficult to get adjusted and know what was expected of me, and then get used to another human being that I didn't know. And then the weight of we still had no idea, what is he supposed to be doing? What is that? What is his role here? And he was getting bored and antsy, and I was getting stressed because he didn't know what he was supposed to do, and I didn't either. We soon found out that the reason he was there is because he was the male presence that they needed to be able to respect me enough to hear what was being said. God actually sent us as a team, and it was beautiful the way it came about. So I'm here to tell you, this message isn't just about giving you information. This is about asking you, pleading with you When God calls you, his ways aren't our ways. His plans are not our plans. They're so much greater. So when he calls you and he asks you to do something that's strange to you, that's uncomfortable to you, and he gives you confirmation, just say yes. Because when you say no, you're missing out on one of the greatest blessings you could ever receive. So one of my friends here, I just talked about the Patriarchal Society. One of my friends here, she's standing to my right in the picture. She is actually a theology major. She is one of the chaplains at the school. There are 2 chaplains, but she will never be ordained because she is a woman. She struggles with that a little bit. She was excited because a female pastor was coming. I said, "Oh, no, honey, I'm not. I'm just a Bible worker, just like you. That's it. You've got more than I have." But she was excited to see that a female was coming and able to speak to her people. But when she came to the school, stepping out in faith, when God called her to take theology, knowing she will never be ordained, she stepped out in faith. She went to this school, and she has found that she has been called to be a teacher. And in teaching these students in Bible, she is sharing her love and her passion with these students for God. They are falling in love with God because of her love for God, and because she stepped out in faith and didn't say, "Oh, but you don't understand, God. We don't do things like that in PNG. I can't take theology." She said, "Okay." She's touching the lives of currently 400 students who absolutely love her. This young lady here, after delivering the message on baptism, she came to me and she said, "I need to talk to you about baptism." And I said, "Yeah, sure, let's talk." So she brought a group of girls. There was about 5 of them sitting in the Wynn house, and we were just talking, and she finally came out with it and said, "I was baptized a Roman Catholic, and I want to know what that means for me being able to be baptized." I had no clue. I'm like, what difference does that make? I didn't say that out loud in my head. That's what was going on in my head. As she continued to talk, I realized that the dilemma was that her family were active Catholics. And when you are baptized into the Catholic Church, it's as if you are married to the church. What does this look like now? How can she be baptized into the Adventist Church? So as we spoke about this and I expounded on it and shared with her what a relationship with God looks like and that this is just the beginning, she stepped out in faith and was baptized, not knowing whether her family would be there or not knowing if she was going to be disowned, and not caring. It was strange to her. And God called her to do something she couldn't understand. And her family came and supported her in her baptism. This young lady, man, if I could bring her over here and move her in with me, you know what? I'd do it in a heartbeat. I cry many tears over this child, even yet. 3 years ago, she was baptized into the Adventist Church. She was baptized at school. She stepped out in faith. Her family were not Christians, and she didn't ask permission to be baptized. That was huge, because children don't step out on their own in PNG to do things like this. She should have asked. And because she didn't, her family disowned her. She lived at the school. She would go home periodically to test the waters, to see if things had changed, and they hadn't. We cried many times because she felt alone and unloved and unsupported, nobody paying her school dues, and fearful that the school was going to kick her out. The week after we left PNG was a school holiday, and she went home on that school holiday to test the waters. She was surprised because her family, her parents, were being baptized that week. And she told them all about PNG for Christ, and she told them all about me, and they are so happy for her now and excited and supporting her. And I've got to go back to PNG because I got to meet her family now. This young man stepped out in faith and accepted the call to be a missionary pastor to actually leave PNG before he was baptized, guys. Before he was baptized. He's telling Gary and I all about his plans on a walk that he went on that he didn't plan on going on with us, because he told us several days later that his dad had passed away 3 months prior to us getting there, and his dad had been pressuring him to get baptized, to go to PNG for Christ and get baptized. He really needed to be baptized, and he dug his heels in as any human being would and said, I will get baptized in my own time, in my own way, and not because someone is telling me I have to. And furthermore, I don't even want to talk to these people that are coming for PNG for Christ. And God led him out the school gates to go on a walk with us, because little did we know it was not safe for us to go meandering off school property as foreigners. I don't know how anybody would have known we were foreigners, but anyway, it wasn't safe. And he was the only person that saw us leave school grounds. And he ran up to us. Had a beautiful conversation. And then later, when he's telling us this, God convicted him to be baptized while I was speaking on baptism. I'm speaking on the state of the dead. And he said, no, I will get baptized on my own time and on my own terms. He went home. He had a dream that night of his dad saying, didn't I tell you you were going to get baptized? Come be baptized. And he was baptized. The beautiful lady that's standing to my right in this photo, you'd think that I'd be used to saying these things by now. She heard me speaking about some things in my past one night, and it was a few days later we were walking to the garden to harvest peanuts with her, that she shared with me that night that I had told her story almost verbatim in detail. And that she's been ashamed of her story. I don't mind sharing my story, but for time's sake, I won't. But she's been ashamed of it. And I had been ashamed of it. But she said, you stood up in a group of 500 people, 400 students, 100 staff members with their families, and some community people, and you told a bunch of strangers your story with joy. And she said, I realized if you have the same story that I have, and it touched me, then I have the same story that someone else has. And now I have the courage to tell my story and then tell them about Jesus. These are the baptismal candidates lined up. We had 51 people, students, staff, villagers, give their life to Christ. 48 got baptized the day before we left. One went home to be baptized in our home church, and 2 were not granted permission by their parents because they were too young, according to their parents. Since we have left, there have been at least 30 more decisions made for Christ. But what I am excited about, what thrills my heart, is that the school is taking the videos that they recorded of the meetings out to their villages, the 2 surrounding villages, and they're continuing PNG for Christ. They're ministering. They're now discipling. They are taking seriously the gospel commission. 3 pastors came from the mission because there wasn't an ordained pastor on campus. There were 2 theology students and a Bible worker and a lead elder. And so there were three conference officials, pastors that came down. And at the end, they shook our hands. They thanked us, profusely thanked us. I didn't understand it. I mean, in comparison, other sites were baptizing thousands. We had 48, which was huge for me. But they said they have never had this kind of response from any outreach that has ever been done in the school in the 50 years that they have existed. It's amazing to know that nearly 100 people have given their lives for Christ. They didn't welcome us to entertain them, and they didn't welcome us to confirm them. They welcomed us because they want to go out and share Jesus with others. I'm going to come back to that one. Those who hunger and thirst for righteousness will be filled. That is our promise, right? The nation of PNG is hungry for Christ. The planning for PNG for Christ started in 2016, and the plan was to reap the harvest in 2020. When the leaders of PNG asked the division for 200,000 baptismal certificates, this came from division leaders. I'm not just telling anything. They thought that they were heavily overshooting the mark. Heavily. At the time that we left PNG, in 16 days, with only 60% of the sites reporting, there were over 200,000 baptisms in 16 days. We didn't do that. The people did that. I've heard it say, we need to do a PNG for Fiji. We need to do a PNG for Australia, Australia for Christ, a Fiji for Christ, and a New Zealand for Christ. I'm going to ask you right now, are you willing to get out and start planning? Because that's what these people did. We didn't go in there and work some miracle. These people were hungry, and they're still hungry for Christ. And they got out, and they started giving Bible studies, and they went out, and they started opening their homes for home church, and they went out, and they were sharing Christ anywhere and everywhere that they could, and they endured, not making excuses. And what they saw was, as of a month ago, with 200 plus international speakers coming into PNG to over 2,000 sites. Over a month ago, with just 75% of the sites reporting, there were over 360,000 baptisms, and they're still coming in. And what's more is everybody in these sites are still going out sharing Christ with their villages. They're still sharing. We had whole denominations were converted over to Adventism. Pastors that were sending their congregations over saying, you need to go, don't worry about coming here on Sunday. they're speaking the truth. Bishops sending their congregations out. We don't want to leave you. No, you need to go. They're speaking the truth. People were healed. Andy prayed over a man that hadn't walked in years, and the next day he saw the man standing up, walking toward him. The gift of tongues was present. There weren't enough interpreters. They didn't know what they were going to do, so they just spoke. And the people heard them plainly and understood what they were saying and asked for more. The Holy Spirit definitely moved, and he worked because he keeps his promises. Those who hunger and thirst for righteousness will be filled. And they were filled. People were camping out for weeks before we got there, weeks at the sites so that they could have a site. Babies that were being born were being named after the speakers. And there were many babies that were born there, from what I understand. It was amazing, amazing to see this. So today I'm going to end here. PNG is now in a crisis. They need about 500,000 more Bibles. The division is printing off more World Changer Bibles. The Pidgin English Bibles they're gone. There aren't any available in PNG at this moment. So they're also passing out God pods for people that are illiterate or don't understand English. They're also needing equipment to turn their sheet metal into roofing, because they've got to build more churches. And they're also asking for people to come, walk alongside them, and finish the harvest over there. People to come and train. So you can give to the PNG for Christ campaign in the 2024 Camp Mission Offering Appeal in e-giving, or, and I'll go back to that one. We are asking specifically that you help our site out, which will help the overall picture, the overall problem, because what we are taking care of for NAGAM, Seventh-day Adventist boarding school, will help relieve a lot of the pressure that is on PNG right now. Our site is asking for 300 Bibles. They're about $10 a piece with shipping. They're also asking for about 150 God pods that are about $15 a piece with shipping, and 300 Great Controversy. They want this to take with them as they share these videos, to share with their neighbors so they can read what they're hearing. And the Great Controversy is about $10 a piece. So this QR fund is for a GoFundMe that I have set up that I will be using to buy Bibles, God pods, and Great Controversy. The Bibles will be shipped this month to the Sepik Valley Mission. And they've already been allocated for NAGAM, 300 of them. So we just have to pay for them. The Great Controversy will be sent off with the next Signs of the Times shipment. We just have to pay for them. And I just need the funds to be able to order the God pods to send out. So there's this QR code, and I'll be standing at the back door after Sabbath school for anyone that's not prepared to give electronically but would like to give cash. Again, giving here will help the overall fund of the crisis in PNG. And I want to leave you with this quote that I read. And I don't know if you can see, it looks really small to me, but there's the link to read the whole article. The big reason why we were looking into having international guest speakers coming into the country was for their learning. That is primary. This was spoken by Pastor Maluchi Yanni, which is the president of the PNG Union Mission. We want them to come and see why the church is growing in PNG. And I want you to catch this because this involves each and every one of us. And I know that God has spoken to somebody's heart sitting here today, and I'm going to urge you, please say yes. For the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. And sometimes, as joyful as it is, I feel like I'm drowning as one of those workers. I'm begging you, please join us in the harvest. We want to see Australia growing as well, New Zealand growing, and Trans-Pacific Union Mission growing as well. We hope to see them running another campaign like we did in PNG, so we also will have to go to their country and learn from them. We mingle together and learn together and preach together. That was for our learning. I learned a lot. Gary learned a lot. I'll leave you with this. There is a trip being planned to the Solomon Islands in 2 years. Start praying now and ask God. They are calling for lay people to come on that trip. And as a lay person, I am telling you, you will not experience anything greater than going into the harvest and reaping what others have sown.